It's so good being able to watch a Rangers game and actually enjoy it again. Now we're one game into the Clement era and already fans have seen, all over Twitter, all over YouTube, seen absolutely massive differences between the way Clement sets up his team and the way Beale set up his team, to the point where Dessers got an applause walking off the pitch, and that's something I'd never thought I'd see. Now obviously a staple in Beale's teams and his whole recruitment drive, as you know, was focused around mostly, a narrow 4-3-3. Now he brought in players to suit that. That system didn't work out, it didn't suit the Premiership, blah blah blah, we all know that. Before that game, before that starting lineup was announced, fans were wondering one thing, and that's, with this group of players, what possible formation is he going to play? Because obviously we saw a picture of him watching the games on the plane on the way over to Ibrox to sign in that dotted line, and there's absolutely no fucking way he looked at that narrow 4-3-3 or that narrow formation and thought, I could do something with this. That brings us on to our first massive change, and that was formation. Now in a previous video, in one of my, leaked videos, we saw a clip from Clement's post online, his introduction post to the Rangers fans, where he gave a little bit of a teaser with him at a tactics board, and on that tactics board showed two wide players, a right winger and a left winger. And to be honest, when I saw that, I kind of breathed a sigh of relief, but at the same time, it wasn't confirmed, so you didn't really know. No one really knew how Clement was going to line up against Hibs. And when that starting lineup came out, a lot of people were kind of disgruntled with the fact that Scott Wright was starting, but then that balanced out at just the overall use of wingers in general. And throughout that performance, yet again, this game, as well as all previous games in previous years, shows that this team is suited to playing in wide areas. Obviously in the past we've maybe been criticised for being overly reliant on the use of wide players, but to be honest, when Clement comes in the door and he has to boil back to the basics and get the best out the squad, it seemed like an obvious change to make, and it definitely paid off. And going from that, wingers high to seeing that Cyril Dessers was starting, you wouldn't blame fans for being a bit apprehensive. But for the first time, and I never ever thought I'd see this, Dessers actually got an applause for the crowd when he left the pitch. I mean, to be honest, I think he fully deserved it. Yes, there's a huge amount of work that still has to be done to get Dessers firing on all cylinders, but I think one of his biggest flaws, it's not necessarily his flaws, I think he was kind of thrown into the deep end, was the fact that he was pretty much playing as a lone striker. I think Clement helped him out a lot by actually playing players close to him, allowing that link-up play, allowing him to be an actual feasible outball. And although yes, you probably look at Dessers' numbers at other clubs and wonder why we signed him, why we went into so much effort, but at the same time, a questionable signing is going to look bad when you're playing an extremely narrow formation and leaving Dessers up the pitch himself. I do think there's a lot to come for Dessers. I think he's definitely going to improve. Someone's seen something in him, and if Clement can somehow get the best of that out of him, then obviously 100% our minds can be changed on him. But again, there's so much work to do. I really think we're going to start to see Dessers get involved and come into the game a wee bit more and be able to progress his game through the return of Cantwell as well. And the one big change for Cantwell, as opposed to during the Beale era, is he's actually being played, or hopefully will be played, in his consistent natural position. I mean, that assist aside, which was absolutely disgusting, the fact that he was kept centrally on that pitch and kind of given the freedom in the middle of the park gives me the impression that Cantwell is definitely a player that's going to thrive under Clement. And again, with those forward players, there's 100% flaws in that. It's by no means anywhere close to a finished article for a start. I mean, January we've got to sign a right winger, and I'm fairly confident that a right winger's firmly in Clement's mind. I mean, ever since Candias left, have we ever found a right winger that's made that much an impact? I mean, I'll be honest, yes, the defending's been poor so far, but it's been so poor because our front line has been so bad, been so flat-footed, the midfield's been completely eliminated, which is leaving teams to run at an unprotected back line. Of course performances are going to be poor. It's given defenders 10 times a job they would have had if the front line and the midfield were involved more in the game. Completing that front three, that forward line, is probably the most important job Clement has in his hands during the next transfer window and the transfer window after that. Our only problem is what we're going to do with all these fucking central forward players. I think one thing that every single fan noticed throughout that game against Hibs was something so subtle, but the tempo was so much higher than any performance probably combined during the Beale era. There was a desire, there was an urgency. We were going for every first ball, every second ball. I feel like we were more direct. We weren't having possession for possession's sake, and we were taking so many more risks. And in my opinion, the only way you're going to score goals in football is to take risks. This bollocks possession for possession's sake. Yes, if you keep the ball, the opposition can't score. But when you've got a team right now that's not really sure what their roles are, they're making plenty of mistakes, the possession's going to turn over. And considering how many times we poorly lost possession in the final third, stemming from absolutely pointless possession of the ball, sideways passes, backward passes, just waiting to draw teams out of position. And nope, they're just staying stubborn. I would much rather lose the ball for taking a big risk, a diagonal pass, a risk threading the ball through as well and losing possession. At least there's more chances potentially created that way. I mean, there was slip balls through, there was shots for the edge of the box, there was early crosses into the box, there was players trying to gamble on the balls, and for once we were actually clinical. That all came through risk. And yes, losing possession at Ibrox is pretty intimidating. What I want to say to fellow fans is we've got to risk losing the ball to create as many chances as possible. And you could definitely see during that game that was something, that was a key element that Clement was going for. So what I want you to do is jump into the comment section and let me know what you took from Clement's performances in comparison to most of the performances under Beale. I mean, my biggest difference is I actually enjoyed watching a game of fucking football. Remember, if you want to support the channel and you want to join the memberships, the link's down in the description below, along with all of our social links. So if you want to go check them out, it'd be brilliant. And we'll see you next time.